Pro-Palestinian protests are escalating, and that's by design. Instigators want things to explode, and they're teaching protesters just how to do that. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. For all you American college students graduating this month, congratulations! You got a rough start with the global pandemic, but you're finishing with a bang! Do colleges give refunds? I feel like this graduating class has earned it. Especially those at Columbia who just had their commencement canceled. Protests are supposed to be disruptive. As you're probably aware by now, pro-Palestine protests have been shaking up university campuses across the U.S. I warned in my previous coverage of the protests that things could escalate, especially with college graduations in the U.S. coming up, and it looks like I was spot on. As usual, to prove this point, earlier this month, AP News reported that there have been 2,400 plus arrests on 46 campuses nationwide since April 17th. And if you're worried about these arrested protesters, you don't need to, because your elected representatives are already on it. There are actually politicians who are coming to the protesters' defense by comparing these protests to the civil rights movement and emphasizing how they're peaceful. Hopefully a little less fiery than other peaceful protests we've seen. There is some truth to that, though, as lots of protesters are simply engaging in communist Coachella, harnessing the power of interpretive dance to get their message across. But saying the pro-Palestinian protests are similar to the civil rights movement is, well, it's just not true, is it? During the civil rights movement, Dr. King called for non-violence. Yet there's plenty of violence at these pro-Palestinian protests, forcing the police to act, which is crazy because it was peaceful violence. And what the police had to deal with will definitely shock you. Maybe.
The university released these images of the damage and vandalism inside Hamilton Hall. You can see overturned chairs and furniture, some broken windows, and smashed panes of glass.
Are they trying to free Palestine or remake Animal House? That looks less like a protest and more like a party. I guess that's why they call it a communist party. Aside from tons of barricades and cinder blocks, you'll notice protesters forming up with makeshift shields, with some even charging at police. There were also a lot of makeshift weapons. And no, it's not just random stuff thrown at police. At Portland State University, police found this improvised armor. This is such a poorly improvised siege, I'm shocked the protesters didn't shout, "Leroy Jenkins!" They also found ball bearings and material with instructions saying, "Throw down stairs if cops come." I'm assuming this is some slippery substance designed to slow police by making them slip and fall. Police in this footage warn each other about the slick floor. I mean, who's advising these protesters? Kevin McAllister? If these cops aren't careful, they might step on some Legos or get tarred and feathered. Additionally, at Columbia University's Hamilton Hall, NYPD found gas masks, earplugs, helmets, goggles, tape, hammers, knives, and a book on terrorism. You know, essential things for peaceful protesters. And I'm pretty sure that textbook on terrorism wasn't supposed to be an instruction manual. These protests are becoming increasingly violent, and that's by design. There are outside instigators escalating things. According to the NYPD, among those arrested between Columbia University and the City College of New York, 48% were not affiliated with the schools. It's gotten so bad that even New York City Mayor Eric Adams warns that there's a global movement to radicalize young people. And he's not wrong. Pamphlets being handed out at the Michigan University's protests justify Hamas's October 7th attack as an act of decolonization. One pamphlet reads, "Freedom for Palestine means death to America." This pamphlet, written by the Revolutionary Communists of America, encourages students, teachers, and campus workers to seize control from school administrators. In these protests, supposedly about Palestine, people are calling for a socialist revolution in America.
We must have revolution so we can have a socialist reconstruction of the United States of America.
That's why these protests are starting to look a little less like liberation for Palestine and a little more like a communist revolution in America. The Progressive Labor Party reminds us, from the rivers to the seas, communism will set us free. Yes, I'm sure free is how people who lived under communist regimes would describe themselves. So how do Marxists plan to achieve revolution? Through escalation. According to this radical Tumblr page called Escalate Network, escalation is the goal. Wait, Tumblr is still a thing? Do they also keep a live journal and MySpace page? Man, we're getting old, folks. These protesters are being trained. For example, one University of Wisconsin protester pamphlet called De-Arrest Primer teaches students how to overpower the police, and we can see how effective it is. The pamphlet shows techniques such as how to pull arrestees out from police officers' grips, in addition to more drastic measures to break the grip of police officers. These martial arts techniques are about as effective and believable as Steven Seagal's. It also teaches how to pull arrestees out from police cars, which I'm sure will never come back to bite protesters who even dare try to put those techniques into practice. Oh no, never. Unlike people who use Steven Seagal's flawless fighting techniques, he's untouchable. Another radical organization, Palestine Action USA, shared the do-it-yourself occupation guide on Instagram. It was later taken down. Wait, I thought people who were pro-Palestine were anti-occupation. To give a better idea of what Palestine Action USA is, they're closely tied to Fergie Chambers, a full-blown millionaire communist. Millionaire and communist may sound like an oxymoron at first, but then you've got to remember, some people are simply more equal than others. You can probably tell what Palestine Action USA's Do-It-Yourself Guide teaches from the title alone. It teaches things like how to barricade doors, make shields, and break into buildings. Sadly, it doesn't suggest these LARPers shout Leroy Jenkins. It also gives a whole bunch of reading recommendations, including literature teaching things like taking over a building and instructions for bypassing alarms and locks. Man, these kids really are in university to learn. They won't skip reading assignments even during protests. What dedication! Another one of Palestine Action USA's pamphlets found at the University of Pennsylvania is called Flood the Gates, Escalate. In it, Palestine Action US encourages escalation and tells readers, don't hesitate to take more risk. Yeah, you listen to that communist millionaire who's definitely risking his own well-being. He may have gotten a paper cut writing the checks for these pamphlets, so now it's time you spill some blood too. It also says the most effective occupations have been where students have strong alliances with non-students. Anything is fine as long as it builds more militancy. Yes, you heard correctly, more militancy is a good thing. And Palestine Action US isn't the only organization calling for it. The University of Illinois' Urbana-Champaign-Gaza Solidarity Encampment is also pushing for militancy, saying organizers should not concern themselves with de-escalation or remaining peaceful. Neither remaining on the defensive nor being compliant will protect us, but being dynamic and meeting the cops head-on might. Not sure if that worked out as well as people expected. That LARPer should have put more stats into strength and agility. And I really wouldn't be surprised if protesters continue to escalate, especially when they see that they can squeeze at least some demands from universities. This is not helping the people in Gaza or the West Bank. These are well-off Americans going to expensive U.S. universities, some of the most privileged people on the planet, LARPing as revolutionaries. Case in point, here's an organizer at the Columbia protest who demanded the school provide catering to the protesters.
Why should the university be obligated to provide food to people who've taken over a building?
Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation?
It seems like you're sort of saying, we want to be revolutionaries, we want to take over this building, now would you please bring us food and water?
Nobody's asking them to bring anything. We're asking them to not violently stop us from bringing in basic humanitarian aid.
They're stopping the delivery of food?
We are looking for a commitment from them that they will not stop it
but
violently.
They haven't stopped it yet.
I don't know to what extent it has been attempted, but we're looking for a commitment.
She's a PhD student at Columbia. Guess what her dissertation is? My dissertation is on fantasies of limitless energy in the transatlantic romantic imagination from 1760 to 1860. My goal is to write a prehistory of metabolic rift, Marx's term for the disruption of energy circuits caused by industrialization under capitalism. I'm particularly interested in theories of the imagination and poetry as interpreted through a Marxian lens in order to update and propose an alternative to historicist ideological critiques of the romantic imagination. If you're still watching after all that word soup, first of all, thank you. But these are the kind of people who think they should be in charge of everything. Well, at least until someone like Che Guevara lines them all up and has them shot. There is some delicious irony in all of this, though. Many of these universities have spent decades indoctrinating students in far-left ideology. Now, many protesters see universities as institutions of oppressive, genocidal white supremacy that must be dismantled. How fitting. To be fair, if I were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans to attend a school where all I learned is poor LARPing, I'd feel pretty oppressed too. Speaking of cash, here at America Uncovered, we do our best to present the facts and let you draw your own conclusions. But I can't afford to keep making the show without your support on the crowdfunding website patreon.com/AmericaUncovered. All it takes is $1 an episode. I usually make about 12 episodes a month, but if that's too much for you, you can always set a monthly limit. You can help me continue to uncover America for just $1 a month. Just click on this orange button to support the show. And if you didn't know, I also talk about news and politics through the lens of gaming on my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming. Click on this video about how Marxist ideology is infecting the gaming industry through DEI consultancy groups like Sweet Baby Inc. Let me know what you think. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.